that evening, I lovingly served it. I was very proud of my pie. And my mom, I don't know where my mom was that I managed to do all of this. She was my father's secretary for his home business, and so she was probably in the office, not realizing what I was getting up to. And she probably came along about the time it was time to bake the pie. I really don't remember. But I served it up, or my mom served it up. She lovingly cut the slices and put it on everybody's plate. And my poor father, we have a little bit of back feed. We'll give them a minute to take care of that problem. I'll wait for the all clear. Are we clear? Okay. All right, anyway, so my mom served up my pie with love, and my father, while he thought it looked ugly, he was sure that my mom had helped me with it. And he took his first bite and promptly started to say something that would have hurt my feelings, and Mom gave him a swift kick in the shins, and he looked at the pie, and he looked at my mother, and he looked at the pie, and he looked at my mother, and he decided it was healthier for him to eat my poor pie than it was to go against my mother. So, thankfully it was appreciated, and my feelings were not hurt. So that was the beginning of my cooking career. I think it's important to know where your foods come from. I think it's important to grow your foods. It's important to educate yourself. The whole point of me doing this and doing cooking classes and catering and all of that is to educate people. Know where your food comes from. Some people say, oh, we have to eat 100% organic. Not everybody can do that. You do the best that you can with what you have, and then you pray for the Lord to make up what it lacks. That's what you do. Today, we have recipes for you. I hope all of you have gotten a copy. I have a very, very bad habit. I don't follow recipes very well. So you're going to see me today add a pinch of this, add a dash of that. That's how I cook. The recipes are simply guidelines. And yes, let's pass them out so we can go ahead and let the folks take notes if they want to. These recipes are guidelines. If you don't like garlic, don't add garlic to it. If you like basil, add basil. You're not cooking for anybody else. You're cooking for your own tastes. So make it how you like it. Make it taste good for you. If some people like a little more salt than other people. I like a little cayenne pepper in my spaghetti sauces and my meatloaf, and I think it adds a little bit of the capsaicin flavor. Not enough to make it spicy. Some people don't like that. Some people can't handle even the tiny amount that I put in. Take notes, take these recipes home, and make them yours. Life is too short and full of complexities to have to worry about what we eat. We need to be healthy, but we need to not stress about it. That's what I'm trying to say. We need to learn how to give our families, even if it's just us, and in my case, I don't have children at the moment, but I have 2 dogs. My our church members say that my dogs are completely spoiled because I cook for them, and they don't eat, dog food. But I don't want them to have all of the fillers that are in the dog food. So today, let's work on taking your health into your own hands as directed by God. Education is the key. We cannot afford to be uneducated consumers in our world. We've got to start taking control of our diets. So that's my little introduction about me. The very first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make garlic confit, which is basically a fancy way of saying roasted garlic. You don't have a recipe for this in your recipe packet. You need to take notes on this. The reason is I'm going to show you how easy it is. You take your garlic, and if you want to peel it, you can. I just bought a bag of peeled garlic. You put in as much garlic as you want. Okay? You put in as much garlic as you want. Trust me, I make this for our church. My husband's a pastor. We have 4 churches, 2 English-speaking churches and 2 Russian-speaking churches. I make this by the quart. I'll do a whole bag of garlic, 2 bags of garlic, and it will last 2 days maybe when we're having an event. It's that good. You pour on some olive oil until it comes about halfway up the side. Doesn't need to. Some people want to cover the garlic. That's too much garlic. That's too much oil for me. You can use fresh herbs or dried herbs. So I'm using some Italian seasoning today. My favorite is fresh oregano and fresh thyme. That's my favorite. And we're going to put some salt, some sea salt on there. Celtic sea salt is the best, or pink Himalayan. It needs quite a bit, so don't be afraid of the salt in this respect. We're going to be putting it on other stuff. You pop a lid on it. If you don't have a lid, put some aluminum foil over it. And now we're going to hand it off to one of our lovely assistants. Please bake that at 350 and we'll bake it until it's soft. That's it. This is good on baked potatoes. This is good on our hot rolls that we're going to have today. This is good on spaghetti. This is good on a salad. This will keep almost forever as long as it's covered with oil in your refrigerator. It keeps a really long time. So that's garlic confit. Very simple, very easy. If you like marjoram, put marjoram in it. If you like it to be spicy, put some cayenne pepper in it. Make it how you like it. All right, our second, because we just did the garlic. Our menu today is we're going to do a German-style carob cake, not chocolate. And don't be afraid of carob, because when it's done right, it tastes good. Okay? So we're going to do a cake. We're going to do hot rolls, meatloaf, squash, and then a cheese ball. Okay? And we're going to we've already stuffed that cheese ball into some baby bell peppers and made them look like little baby carrots. Really cute. Okay? So we're going to do our cake now. And now when you're doing cake, it's very important. This is a vegan cake, so no eggs. It's ideal to start it in a cold oven. I've made a lot of cakes in my time, and it always worked. Vegan cakes, for me, always work better in a cold oven. So I'm adding my flour. You can use spelt flour. I make this cake a lot with spelt flour. This is regular flour today. Here's my carob powder. Here's my baking powder. And my salt. Here, and so we mix our dry ingredients and then we mix our wet ingredients. May I have the brown liquid on the stove, please? In the green pot. To make a decadent carob cake, to make it really nice and decadent, it's good to have some carob chips. So I've put my carob chips in here with my water and my oil, and I've melted them, or nearly melted them. You don't want to boil this. You don't want to boil this. And I've put my lemon juice in. There. The lemon juice reacts with the baking powder and helps it to rise. So we mix that. We mix our cake. Yes, this is the carob powder. Thank you very much. This is the carob powder we use. We can pass that around the room. There's an unopened bag. Here's the carob chips that I use. This is a very good, pass that around as well. This is a very good company. And the carob chips melts, this brand will melt similar to chocolate chips. Not all brands will do that, okay? And guys, feel free at any time. If you have a question, just raise your hand and ask me, okay? So we have our dry ingredients in our bowl. We have our wet ingredients in our bowl. Now, before we mix them, we want to oil and flour our cake tins. And I always take the extra precaution of cutting a parchment paper and sticking it in the bottom of my cake tin. So I've already oiled this cake tin, but I'm going to show you how to flour it. And some of you might know, some of you might not. But you just stick a little bit of flour in there. You bounce it around the sides. I need to try and stay within camera range. And you bounce, I'll try and turn it around so you can see it. You can look at, it's a little bit behind, but you can also look at the TV screen and see what I'm doing. And so I just bounce it, and then I shake it across the bottom. You do not want excess flour in your cake tin, so you turn it over, you tap it on the edge of your counter, tap it out. You want it to be dusted, but clean. All right? Now I'm going to put my piece of parchment paper in there, and now I am ready to mix my wet and dry ingredients together. You don't want to overmix your cake, especially if you're using gluten flour. All right? Sometimes if you get a little bit of extra flour in there and it doesn't quite come together, can you guys see? Try and aim it at the camera. I'll show you about what you want the texture to look like. Okay, so I need just a little bit more water in there. So I have a little bit right here. Not a lot, just a splash. You just want it to come together with no dry spots. So how many folks in here like making cakes or make cakes, or right by a show of hands? Okay. What about the rest of you? You don't like to? You'd rather eat them? Well, I'm just the opposite. I love making cakes for people, but I don't like cake. If I'm going to eat any cake, it will be medjovic or a Russian honey cake. I love that cake. But other cake, not so much. All right, you're going to divide it evenly between your two pans. If it's not exact, don't worry about it. We can trim it up later, but roughly we're going to divide it evenly between our two pans. All right, does everybody see the texture that we're going for? All right. I kind of messed up. I got a little bit on the side. You want to try not to get it any higher up the side than you want to take it, because that section, that little bit will cook faster and it could inhibit the rise of your cake. All right, so you want to try and keep it all down in the bottom of the pan and keep the sides of your cake pan smooth. And here is our carob cake. The secret to make a carob cake really good, and if we can bake that at 350 until a toothpick comes out clean, okay? The secret to make a carob cake really good is Roma. This is the secret to make a carob cake really good. So I had some Roma in there, forgot to mention it, but you can, forgot I was wearing this. You guys can pass this around if you want. But that's the secret to make your carob cake superb. So that's our carob cake. We have another carob cake over here that I've already made, so we're going to decorate in a minute. You don't want to decorate your cake hot. Your frosting will slide right off. This cake has been in the freezer. Yes? adds a little bit of that mocha-y flavor that chocolate might have. You don't have to add it. It's complete. Again, you're making this cake for you. If you want the aroma in it, add it. But it's like, so later on you're going to see me add salt to my buttercream. The buttercream, the salt in the sweet buttercream only rounds out and enhances the flavor. What? Okay. Sorry. I am not used to technology. My husband is the technical one, and he's not here today to guide me, so I get off track sometimes. But and when I do cooking classes, this is the first time I've ever had to been wired for a cooking class. Yes. Yes, you can. That is where I purchased that. I purchased that at Whole Foods. They did. Not many stores sell it. I don't know if all Whole Foods sell it, but my Whole Foods, where I am, sells it. All right, so that's our cake. We're bake it off. We're gonna start our bread now, and oh, fabulous! Look, our lovely ladies in the kitchen have my bowl all washed and ready to go. Thank you so much. We're going to start our hot rolls now. I know everybody's super excited about the hot rolls. So those are the hot rolls, and so we're going to get those started. The reason we're going to start them and then move on to something else and come back is because we have to start a sponge. We have to start a bread sponge. So to do that, we need to ask our lovely ladies in the kitchen for 2.5 cups of hot water. Good hot water. We're going to get a drinking cup. We're going to get two drinking cups like this. And we're going to put the same temperature of hot water in the 2 drinking cups and start them around the room so people can feel how hot the water should be. Sometimes you can measure it with a thermometer. That's okay. Most of the time it should just be slightly hotter than blood temperature. So blood temperature is when you stick your finger in the water and you can't feel the water around your finger. You want it to be slightly warmer than that. Okay? For the hot rolls, that's for normal bread. For the hot rolls, we're going to go a little bit hotter. All right. Okay. So go put some hot water in those cups and pass them around the room so people can feel, because that's a question I always get, how hot should my water be? And so we're going to let you guys feel it, okay? No, that's good. It's not too hot. All right, here we go. One for this side and one for this side. Yep, stick your finger in it, pass it down. I hope you all washed your hands. You should have before coming to eat. So, all right, and I'm going to get my whisk out. I'm going to put my sugar in my hot water, and I'm going to put some flour in my hot water, and I'm going to put my yeast in my hot water. And I'm going to mix this up and make a sponge. Part of the reason you do this is to test your yeast and make sure it hasn't gone bad. You're giving it a chance to activate. The sugar is what feeds the yeast to help it bubble up, right? You can use molasses. One of the breads that I grew up on called Anadama bread, which is a cornmeal molasses bread. It's very popular New England bread. It uses molasses. You can use honey. You can use maple syrup. You cannot use stevia. Stevia does not work. It has to be a sweetener, okay? So sugar, molasses, maple syrup, honey, all of that works. I am experimenting with apple juice concentrate. So that seems to be working well. But, you know, typically I just do the couple tablespoons of sugar. But if you can't do that, explore what works for you. If for whatever reason your yeast doesn't rise, you can always make fajitas. Or not fajitas. You can always make tortillas for fajitas. Okay? So we have, you see our bubbles in there. I don't know. You can see the bubbles, but when we're going to set that off to the side and let that start getting bubbly. We're going to move back to our cake, and I'm going to invite Faith, Eva, and Dinah to come up here, and we're going to make our buttercream for our cake. Okay? All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to put the butter in the mixer, and I think we need to move the mixer down so that it's within camera range. Okay? So who wants to put the butter in the mixer? Okay. Yep. And we have a spatula. Here we go. Scrape it off. You want to scrape it off? Good job. So I have always helped my mom in the kitchen, whether it's, you know, picking nuts or fruit. Okay, we can add in a splash of milk. I'll tell you when. Yeah, add it in there. We're just eyeballing it. Good. We can add, that's enough for now. We can always add more, but we can't take away. All right, we need to add a splash of vanilla. So I remember when I was like 3 years old helping my mom with cooking schools. And one of the first things I ever did was, and push the bananas, the frozen bananas through the Champion juicer. I was so proud of myself. I thought I was the main act. They weren't going to get their banana ice cream without me there. Nobody else could do it. All right, so we're going to turn our mixer on, and we're going to start. Do we not have power? It's not plugged in. This is very important. It is very important to plug into the electrical outlet just as it is to plug ourselves into Christ every morning. We have to do that. All right, let's see if it works now. Shall we try? There we go. All right, so we're going to cream this together. We don't want to go too fast at first because it's going to splash. I love my mixer. It's one of my babies. We found this one. This is my demo mixer. I have another one at home, that's a home mixer. My brothers got it for me when I was married. We found this one in a dumpster. Don't be ashamed to dumpster dive, okay? There's a lot of nasty things in a dumpster, but we had suspicion that this one was in this particular dumpster, and so we crawled in and got it. All right, do you see how it's getting all creamy? All right, let's take it off and show everybody. So why don't you go show them how creamy it is? This is what we want it to look like. No, just walk around the tables and show them, okay? While we get the powdered sugar open. And will you pass me the scissors over there, sweetheart? Thank you. You want it, see how all the milk and the vanilla and everything got incorporated? That's what we want. We might add a little bit more vanilla and we might add a little bit more milk later on. All right. Another important thing is as you cook, taste what you're cooking. Taste your meatloaf mixture. Taste your buttercream. I don't taste the cake. I don't taste the bread. Sometimes I should because sometimes, thank you, sweetheart, I've forgotten to put salt in the bread. And that, I like salt in my bread. All right, so I'm going to show you how to put the powdered sugar in there, okay? So we're going to dump it in a little bit at a time, like that. Yeah, I'll give that to you. You want to turn it on? We need to, we're going to lift it up. You want to turn it on? Can you turn it on to 3? See if that's not too. There, very good, very good. All right. We're going to dump in a little bit more. You want to do it? Or you want me to? Dump it in slowly so it doesn't poof out as it goes. Okay? We're going to add the whole bag. So yes, this is powdered sugar. This is refined sugar. I don't usually use white sugar. This is about the only thing I use the vegan butter and the sugar for. I'm going to let it go, okay? No, you hold it. I don't use it. Oop, too fast. Up, up. All right. We don't usually use a lot of vegan butter at my house, but when people want a birthday cake, this is what I use vegan butter for. Personally, I think it's better to use olive oil or coconut oil, but this recipe does not work with coconut oil. I have tried making my own butter. I've tried coconut oil. I've tried olive oil. You can't make a good buttercream. You also need to be careful about what kind of butter you use. Sweetheart, will you pass this around? Just start it around the room. You need to be careful about what kind of vegan butter you use. If you use a whipped butter, it will make a good buttercream, but it will melt right off your cake at room temperature. I catered a wedding one time where that happened, and the frosting slid right off the cake. Because we are making this a carob frosting for a carob cake, we're going to add a little carob powder to it. So I'm going to slow it down, and you dump all of that in there, okay? Just dump the whole bag right in there. Yeah, good job. We can throw it away. Yes, you can. If you want to put a little Roma in your frosting, you can do that. You can dissolve it in your milk and put it in your milk. I'm not going to because I want the contrast between. So where is we need our salt. We need to add some salt to this buttercream. Like I said, it rounds out the flavor. Not a lot. That's it. Maybe a pinch. It just rounds out the flavor. We need to add a little bit more milk. Do you see this? All the stuff that's in the bottom? We need to add a little bit more milk in there, and we need to scrape the bottom. So you want to scrape the bottom for me a little bit? Add a little bit of milk. Yep. Good job. Just a little bit. If you add too much milk, that's good. If you add too much milk, then you have an icing instead of a buttercream. And we don't want that. So, oh yes, Faith Eva, you want to take our hot roll bowl around and show them all the nice fluffiness and the bubbles while we're waiting to scrape down this buttercream? You see how it kind of is spongy on top? That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. All right, good job. All right, why don't you turn it on again and we'll see what. Yeah, but you must take this out. If you don't take that out, that will make stuff fly everywhere, and we'll have a huge mess to clean up, just on the tray. All right. Good job. All right. See how it's getting all the stuff in the bottom? That's what we want. So now we can turn it up a little higher and faster. And there's our buttercream. I think we should taste it, don't you? Do we have any plastic spoons? Oh, there we go. Right by my knees. Do you want to taste it, honey? Just right. No, thank you. No? You want to try it, honey? Nope. All right. That's okay. I appreciate someone who can be honest when they don't want to try something. All right, I probably messed up this again. So, girls, would you like to decorate cake now? We're going to let the girls decorate the cake. I have a cake board right here. You can buy cake boxes and cake boards right at Walmart. We're going to put this off to the side. We don't need that anymore. We're going to take this. We're going to scrape it. So, Ruth Eva, what did we do with the scissors? Not Ruth Eva. Faith Eva. All right, well, we need the scissors. Because we're going to take our carob cakes right here. There we go. And we're going to cut them open. You want to do that? All right, you guys get the carob cakes open. And we're going to take our loved mixer and we're going to put it off to the side. An important thing of cooking is always wipe down as you clean. So where did I put my wet rag? Do we have a wet rag I can use? All right. Moving on. Thank you. If you don't wipe down as you clean, the sugar gets really sticky. Sometimes when I have a whole 6 cakes or so to make, I'm very sticky by the end of it. Even as if trying, you get sticky. So, all right, we're back to our flour. Are you girls ready for some? All right. So we're gonna pop our cake out. If your cake is rounded on the top, you want to take a knife and you cut it off. This one isn't. I always turn my cakes upside down so I have a nice flat surface to work with. All right? And we're going to ask our lovely helpers for a butter knife. We're going to crumb coat our cake. Can you open this one up, honey? We're going to crumb coat the cake, which means you spread a very thin layer of icing on the cake before you do the final frost. Thank you. No, that's enough. And what this does, and so you spread a very thin layer of icing, and this entraps the crumbs so that they can't get into your final icing and make your cake look bad. So you can fill this cake with fruit. I've put strawberry jam in the center sometimes. I've put cherries in the center. You can fill it with whatever you want. Today we're just going to do buttercream. We have something special for the topping. So we put a nice layer in the center. Sometimes they do nowadays what you call the naked cakes, and they just leave it, basically they just frost it with the crumb coat. And then they put fresh, Okay. Then they frost it, they just leave it with the crumb coat and put fresh fruit on it, which is personally how I like my cakes. I don't like a lot of frosting on my cakes when I eat cake. Okay, so we have our cake now. You guys want to crumb coat it? You want to spread a thin layer of icing all over the cake, okay? Here's another butter knife. Here's the spatula if you need it. And I'm going to talk to the folks about making bread, okay? Do what? No, start right now. All right, so we're back to our bread. I'm not measuring anything. Some of it's already pre-measured, but I'm certainly not going to measure my flour. I've made bread a lot. My husband and I have been married 12 years, and he's very spoiled in the fact that he eats homemade bread. He's had store-bought bread maybe 5 times, so he's very spoiled. If you talk to him, though, he doesn't think he is, but he is. So I put a little bit of flour in there. You can use all whole wheat flour. I use a mixture when I'm making these hot rolls. I think they come out nicer. My favorite brand is King Arthur. You can use whatever you want. These work great with spelt. I make them with spelt flour all the time. All the time. And that's actually my preferred flour is spelt flour. But it is difficult to get. You can buy it in Ingles for a little bag with like 3 cups for like $10 or $15, and it's quite expensive. So I put in my oil, I put in my flaxseed. The flaxseed is going to help these be soft, kind of like what an egg would do in your grandmother's traditional hot rolls. Okay? We're going to put in some of our whole wheat flour. And unlike a typical bread, we don't want to knead this dough. We want to keep it soft. We want to, if you look, it rips apart very easily. So just until it comes together, and then we're going to turn it out onto our work surface. And we're going to move these to the side. This is where it gets messy, and this is where I need to take off my watch. Otherwise, I get stuff in my watch. Because your best tools, people like spoons and everything, and I have washed my hands, and I will wash them again before I touch the bread, but your best tools are your hands. You know exactly what your bread's doing when you're in there and you're touching it. So let me wash before I touch the bread. You guys have good hot water at this church. It's very nice. Very nice. All right. So we're going to get a little more flour, and we're going to spread it out on our work surface. And we're going to turn our bread out. We're going to scrape off and we're just going to start folding it together. Again, we're not kneading it. We just want it to come together. And it will do that very soon here. We can take this bowl away. We don't need it anymore. But I do need the flour. No, just the white flour. Just the white flour. You don't want to add too much, but you want to add plenty, enough, so that it doesn't stick to your hands. So here is our dough. It's come together. We're going to get our bench scraper. Yeah, where's our bench scraper? Yeah, thank you. And there's my wet rag that I had earlier. So this is a bench scraper. This is a wonderful tool. I use this to cut my bread in half. Yes, all around the sides, yeah. So I divide it into 2 sections, and then I take my rolling pin. Do you guys like my rolling pin? I forgot it. And we're going to roll out our bread dough. All right, make sure you keep enough flour underneath it so it doesn't stick. And you roll it out in a big circle, and then we'll show you how to cut it. Now you can make this up ahead of time and put this in a plastic bag and keep it in the fridge or the freezer until you want to make the hot rolls. That way it's already, but you just have to let it come back to room temperature if you want the yeast to rise. Okay? It's getting a little sticky. Throw a little more flour under there. If it rips and it looks bad, just fold it over and press it down. It's okay. You're going to roll it up and it's going to look great. Okay? You're going to roll it out. And we're going to get 12 dinner rolls out of this. So we're going to roll it out to about that big. Now, the way we make the hot rolls is you take your bench scraper again, and this doesn't cut the counter like a knife would, okay? It's sharp enough to cut the dough, but it doesn't damage the counter. And so you're just going to cut across like that, cut across like this. We're going to ask our lovely ladies to give us an oiled cookie sheet. I divide it into 4 sections, and then each section into thirds. So you come up with 12 hot rolls. These are one of my husband's all-time favorites. People usually ask for hot rolls. They want hot rolls. Especially my husband. So whenever I make something, a cake or bread or whatever it might be, I always have to make a little bit extra and pay the husband tax. So I'm just rubbing some of the dough off my hands. I'm going to come and I'm going to get a little bit of our water that we have behind here. You don't have to do this, but this helps stick together. You just pat a little bit of water on the tip of each dough slice. Thank you. Perfect. And now we're going to start rolling up our triangles. I always like to stretch my triangle out a little bit. I think it rolls nicer. I'll show you why in a minute. You roll them up. And I like to make my buns so that the tip of the triangle is down. I then stick my thumbs into the little edges. I pat it in my flour, and I curve it, and I place it on my cookie sheet. So, any questions? Who makes bread? Okay, we have 2 people, 3 people. Who used to? Who's going to go home and try to make these hot rolls? Yeah. You're going to try? Good. Good. The thing that offends me most is when I do a cooking class and I give out all these lovely recipes and nobody goes home, nobody does anything with them. That's offensive. It's offensive. It makes me sad. I do. Yeah, so let me show you again. So I have my slice. It's like a pizza slice, right? And then I stretch out the tip just a little bit. And I'll do one without stretching it out, and I'll show you why I like to stretch it out. But see, the point comes under the hot roll. So I'm not going to stretch this one out. Point down. But when I don't stretch it out, now the point is up. Which I like to tuck my points under. Some people like to do it with their points up. It's your hot roll. You do whatever you want. Sometimes if you don't tuck them, then they stick up, and they don't look as nice, and the tip of it will burn. I didn't stretch that one out. The tip burns, and so I always like to just give it a little bit of a stretch. They do this when they're making the croissants in the French bakeries. A lot of times they'll stretch the tip out to get the shape that they desire. These don't look as good as what I normally do because I'm talking and demonstrating at the same time. Is everything okay? All right, we'll get back to the cake in just a minute. All right. And so you can, on most cookie sheets, you can fit 12. It's okay if they touch a little bit. It's okay if they're curved a little bit. You kind of want them to be curved. They're kind of going to straighten themselves out in the oven. Yes. 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 Almond flour is not almond flour does not have gluten in it. And so it is not going to react the same way. It will be similar. The gar gum, is that what you're talking about? Because they have xanthan gum, they have gar gum, they have Kappa carrageenum. They have so many thickeners and stickums and whatever you want to call them. You can try that. I have never tested it with almond flour. When you make bread, and we're going to pass these off to our ladies, we can let those rise for 15 minutes and then put them in the oven. So if I were to need this, I'm not going to roll these ones out. I'm just going to put them in a bag. But if you break a piece of the dough off, you see how that stretches, that doesn't hold together, right? When I make bread, I knead the dough so well that I can stretch this out and almost see through it. And that's when I know I have developed the gluten enough for my sandwich bread. I don't do that for the hot rolls because I want them to be soft. But when you make bread, if you want to see if you've developed your gluten, if you're not sure, just take a little square of it. But that will not work. You cannot do that with a gluten-free flour. I have worked with gluten-free stuff. I have a very difficult time with it, getting the texture that I want. I'm very particular. Right now, when I make gluten-free bread for people, I use an egg because I cannot get the texture that I want. It's always mealy and grainy, and it does not have a nice mouthfeel. So that's why it's so difficult to find a vegan gluten-free bread, is because it is difficult. It's just the way it is. We can put this in a gallon Ziploc bag. Okay? Yes, ma'am. I've heard that. I have not tried that yet. No, ma'am. I have a whole list of things that I want to try, and I just haven't got to it yet. I have made sourdough bread. I use yeast though. I'm still getting into the whole realm of sourdough. I've started several starters and then forgot to feed them. So that's where that ended for the time being. Yeah. Well, we go away. I go on trips. We travel quite a bit, and it just, it's almost like having, we have two dogs now, and we got them fairly recently, and you have to find a babysitter when you go away. Same thing with a sourdough starter, So we're gonna wipe our counter down. Always clean up in between times. And I'm going to take this rag back because before I can help the girls finish the cake, I need to wash my hands. So sometimes the dough can be very difficult to get off a bowl or get off your hand. Just let the bowl soak or use a rag. Yes. Yep. Just let the bowl soak or use a rag. All right, we're going to get back to this lovely cake over here. You girls are doing a good job. We just need to smooth out the sides a little bit. So you see how it's very thin? We just want thin frosting all the way around. The vegan buttercream is never going to be quite the same as your regular buttercream. So in my experience, it's a little more difficult to work with, but you get there. My favorite way to eat cake is just to pour milk on it. Don't even bother frosting it. Or cashew cream, you can do that. All right. So again, this is just to catch all the crumbs. And then we're going to put this in the fridge for a little bit to firm up. Now, you know, we actually have 2 desserts today. One is a mystery dessert. And we're going to play a game, and you guys are going to have to guess what's in the mystery dessert. And you're going to have to tell me what ingredients I used. Don't worry, it's very easy. I'm not going to blindfold you. When we play this game at our church, we blindfold people. So, all right, we're going to put this in the fridge. Can you put it in the fridge? See if there's room? Okay. So, I'm not going to blindfold you today. Don't worry. Sometimes we have the Battle of the Chefs at Irwin Hills. That's where I'm usually presenting. We have a cooking class once a month. We didn't right after the storm for a while because we got hit pretty hard. But sometimes we have Battle of the Chefs, and we blindfold the chefs, me and Charles, who's one of the other chefs, and we see who can identify what's being put into our mouth. That's a little nerve-wracking. You need to trust the people that are... You can unless you want to stay and help. We're going to make meatloaf. It's up to you. Okay. That's okay. No. I've seen it. And sometimes I've worked with some people who could classify as that. Not making fun of anybody, but one time I was working with a young lady, so if this is a potato, right, you know how potato rolls around, she took the knife, and my knives are pretty sharp, and she was cutting the potato like this. I was making soup with it, and I said, "No, honey," I said, you need to hold the potato. And so I need to move down here. And so she grabbed the potato like this and started doing this. And I said, "We're going to find a safer job for you to do." I can't go to the hospital right now. All right, we're going to ask, don't put away our buttercream because we're going to use it again in a minute. But we do need our bowl. We need our bowl again. All right? And we need our glass measuring cup, which is right here. So I'm going to show you how to make meatloaf. We all know that meatloaf has breadcrumbs and onions and celery and usually beef or lamb in it. Well, today we're going to use tofu, and we're going to use soy curls. One of my favorite ingredients to use is the Butler soy curls. This is just the whole soybean. This is what it looks like. You can use it just like this. If anybody wants to taste it, you can. It's crunchy. Soy curls. Butler soy curls. You can use it just like this and make fajitas and season it. It's dry, but it's made from the whole soybean like tofu is. One ingredient. Yes, it's perfect. Yeah. No. No, this is not made with gluten. Yes. 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 TVP is a wheat-based. So TVP is wheat-based. Butler soy curls are soy-based. It's the whole soybean. This has nothing in it. It's just the soybean, and it's ground up, and you can't get them here. No, sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. The best place to get Butler soy curls is not Amazon. Amazon is usually more expensive than it is ordering them directly from the company. The cheapest way to get soy curls is to buy the 12-pound box and then divide it with your friends. Okay? If you go for the 8-ounce bags, it's still pretty expensive. But I order it about once a year from the company itself, and just get the 12-pound box. They recommend that you keep it in the refrigerator or the freezer. I don't do that, but I keep it cool. I keep it dry. I keep it in a dark place, and I keep it in 5-gallon buckets that the lid screws on. Not the ones that pop on, the ones that screw down and screw on, so it screws out all of the air, the excess air. Okay? So I have my soy curls here, so this is what they look like whole. I have some here that I have mashed up and beaten up with my rolling pin that I forgot to bring today. But you can do this with any, the bottom of a glass cup. You can, So I'm going to throw these into my mixing bowl. I'm going to pour in my veggie broth, right? And I need to, a lot of times I make my own. A lot of times I use a chicken broth, a chicken bouillon, dry chicken bouillon that I make myself. I didn't bring that today. Today we're using this. Use whatever tastes good to you. If you want to use that wet stuff that you get find the Ingles in the store, use that. That's good too. We're going to do 1.25 cups. This is only going to make a 9x9 pan. We have a nice, if you want to make a 9x13 pan, ooh, that's too much. If you want to make a 9x13 pan, then you need to double this recipe. Okay? You can? Would you like? No, I have a meatloaf for you to sample. Yes. Well, let's look. This has carrot, celery, garlic, leek, onion, tomato paste, mushroom, spices, and a little apple cider vinegar. No potato. There we go. Yes, this is very good. This is a freezer-friendly recipe. You can make this up and freeze it and pull it out for, no, these are not. The block of tofu cost $1.65 from Aldi. My oats probably cost 50 cents. This costs $2.13, I think. My seasonings and spices altogether probably cost to buy a bunch of parsley. It costs about 99 cents. But this would only be 30 cents maybe. There you go. We can make this meatloaf easily for probably under $8. Yes. This is going to serve, this is a 9x9 dish, so this might serve 4 people comfortably. Maybe 6, depending on how much you eat. We have a wonderful cheap store, a secondhand grocery up where I live. It's called Dickey's Discount Grocery. You can go and you can buy your mustard and your ketchup for 99 cents a jar. So this is our organic tomato ketchup. We have some organic mustard here. If you don't want to add mustard, you can add something else. But I don't recommend doing away with the ketchup. It adds a lot of flavor. All right, so we're going to also add in our soy sauce. You can use any kind of soy sauce you want. You want to use tamari, you can. This is gluten-free. This is the Bragg's liquid aminos at the cheap store. I love that cheap store because I do this so much, and it saves so much money for me. I got this for $10, that whole jug of liquid aminos. So we're going to put in a little liquid smoke. We're going to put in a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to get a spoon, mix this up. So now we have our soy curls, and they're going to sit here for a minute and soak, right? We're going to ask the lovely ladies for our garlic and onions that are sitting there on the stove. So normally I would mix this up, then chop my onions and celery and saute them to give this a chance to rehydrate. We're not going to do that today. We're not going to bake it off right away. This is going to go home with one of you guys. You can bake it off at your house. So it'll have enough, the soy curls will have enough time to absorb that liquid. Okay? We're going to dump in our tofu. We're going to dump in our oats. You can use quick oats instead of rolled oats. I've done it both ways. So we're going to dump in our oats. We're going to dump in, again, here's one of my favorite ingredients, the cayenne pepper. Not a lot. We're not even going to add all of that. We're going to add about half of that. Okay? We're going to add in our sage and our thyme and our rosemary. I was out of rosemary, so we're going to use Italian seasoning today. We're going to just eyeball this. I'm going to show you how to eyeball this. One game that we play in my cooking class back at home is we pour it into our palm. Let me move this stuff out of the way. We pour it into our palm, and we see who can get the closest to a tablespoon. So for my palm, that's about a tablespoon. I know it calls for a teaspoon and a half in your recipe, but you can't ever. It's okay to have a lot of Italian seasoning. It's good. All right, we're going to add in our chopped parsley. We're also going to eyeball our ketchup and mustard. I don't like dirtying tablespoons, so shake it down to the bottom. 1, 2. There's 2 tablespoons. Okay? You want a little bit more? Add a little bit more. Same thing with the ketchup. 1, 2. There we go. We're going to mix it all up. And so this is absolutely delicious, but you need to make it up the day before you want to eat it. It needs that time, and we need to mash our tofu up a little bit. It needs that time to firm up in the oven and then firm up in the fridge. Okay, so that's our meatloaf. We have this little nice take-home pan for you today. I actually think we need a little bit more liquid in this because we're adding everything all at once, and so I'm going to add a little bit more veggie broth to it. Just because, normally I let the soy curls soak up a little bit more, but I've already added the oats in. So, all right, so we add our meatloaf into our pan here. And see, this makes a really nice 8x8 or 9x9 pan. And you just press it down in there. We're going to bake it off. We're going to bake it off for 30 minutes, uncovered just like this. And then you're going to squirt on some ketchup and bake it for another 10 minutes to set the ketchup. And can we see what that meatloaf looks like? Yeah, that's fine. Will you pass me the meatloaf, and we're going to give everybody a peek at it. Yes, I'm finished with that. Okay, here I am. So this is our lovely meatloaf that you guys get to try today. This is, yeah, looks good, right? This is a potluck favorite. This is a catering favorite. I don't think I've ever had anybody not like this. Yeah, yeah. Put a little bit of parsley on top of that to really show it off, and there we go. All right, so we have done our meatloaf. We've done our hot rolls. We're coming up on fall, And today we have, can we look at the squash, please? We have squash. And so we're going to learn a new way to cut up our squash and to serve our squash. This is called Hasselback squash. And you slice the squash thinly, but you don't cut it all the way through. And then you can garnish. Today we're going to garnish it with our roasted garlic or a garlic confit, or we're going to make some pesto to put over this. We're going to make mock pesto. You guys know that pesto takes a lot of basil, which is a very expensive ingredient. Sometimes I can't even get fresh basil. And so I have developed, and I love pesto, I've developed a mock pesto, and which uses spinach. It still has basil in it, but we're using dried basil and we're using spinach. So we're going to bring our blender down here. This was a wedding gift from my church, my home church where I grew up. They threw me a wedding shower, and I need to wash my hands. They threw me a wedding shower, and I only got one gift at my wedding shower, and that was my Vitamix blender. And I thank you so much. And it was the best thing ever. So my brothers got me a mixer. My church family got me a Vitamix blender. My aunt found a food processor for $10 on the side of the road. I was all set. I was doing good. All right, so we're doing our mock pesto now. Into our blender, you can do this in a food processor as well. I actually usually use my food processor for this, but it's on the fritz right now. I'm going to put in my walnuts. I'm going to put in my seasonings. Is it not in? Okay. Well, if you don't have it, leave your email with Victoria, and we will mail it out to you. Okay? This is hands down a wonderful recipe. I say that about all the recipes, but that when you have good recipes, that's the way it is. All right, so I cram this down because this is gonna it's gonna be all blended up, and I'm just gonna start shoving in my spinach and just pack it in there. We're gonna pour some olive oil in there. Normally, they use Romano cheese or Parmesan cheese in pesto. We're using the yeast flakes and the nuts, and real pesto uses pine nuts, which is another extremely expensive ingredient. And so this is a lot cheaper, a lot more budget friendly, and it tastes just as nice. So we have our greens packed in there. We're going to pour in just a little bit of our olive oil. We're going to put our lid on, take our top off, and we're going to start. And you just start working it. Again, I don't usually do it in the blender, but it will eventually get there. We also have some garlic in our olive oil. So we're going to go ahead and add all of that because we need our liquid. In the food processor. Blender works fine. It's just a little easier in the food processor. So how many of you have a Vitamix? Okay, so a few of you. With the Vitamix, the blades turn so fast. Oops, I'm making a mess. The blades turn so fast that it forms a pocket down there. And if you're not careful, you can blow up the blender. I've done that on a number of occasions. When I say blow up the blender, I mean the stuff comes out of the blender. You don't damage your blender per se, but the stuff comes flying out of the blender. And it's messy. I've done that when I've been presenting. I've done that at the Daniel Fast when I was leading the kitchen. And, you know, my team was like, oh, my goodness, you didn't even say any bad words. And I'm like, well, praise God. It wasn't because I wasn't tempted. You just keep working it. A ninja won't be able to take this kind of abuse. So, listen to your blender. Did you hear how the motor changed and it went, ee? That means I have an air bubble in the bottom. So I let that air bubble get there on purpose so you can hear the difference. But as long as it's going chewing and it sounds like it's chewing, you don't have the air bubble in there. Okay? That sounds good. All right, I think that's pretty well done. Now, what do we always do? We always taste it. That's right. So, I'm going to taste it first, but who else wants to taste it? All right. This time I'll try not to smear it on my microphone. It tastes pretty good. I think it needs a little more lemon juice, but we will see what you guys think. Okay. I think it could use a touch more lemon juice, a touch more salt, but we'll see what you guys think. You know, you got to taste stuff. You got to tell me. Okay? There we go. There you go. Got to get it figured out. It's important. I can't stress how important it is to taste stuff as you go. It's, you know, spinach is very healthy for you. So this is just another way to get your greens in. You're welcome. So, who agrees with me that it needs a little more salt and a little more lemon juice? Not more salt? Okay. Lemon juice. See, that's what I think. You want to try it? Whoop. There you go. You guys want to try? You want to try, Dad? You want to try with you? All right, I need to get some more spoons, and I'm going to hit up the front row. Okay? Maybe I'll use forks. you guys get forks. You're welcome. So this is what we're going to put on our squash. I also think I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil to it because I want to be able to drizzle it over my squash. So I'm going to add a little more olive oil to it. Almost handed you an empty one. And we're going to add a little more lemon juice to it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we're going to get our olive oil and our lemon juice. Here's our lemon juice. Nice, fresh, squeezed lemon juice is the key. It absolutely is. Sometimes, like when you make the cake, you can get by with the bottled stuff. But for this, it's key to have the good, fresh stuff. All right. I did. Do you think it needs more? Okay. Because we can't... taste as you go. You know, when you make this at home, this is going to be yours. Yeah, okay. I think so too. But I want you guys to think and process it. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So if we could scrape it out into a glass measuring cup, and I'm going to need my blender again in a little bit. We're going to clean up a little bit here. We're going to wipe up our mess. I just drizzled it with olive oil and a little salt. So, to get that's called Hasselback. You can do that with any kind of squash or any kind of potato. Squash is absolutely wonderful. It's one of my favorite vegetables. We peeled the butternut squash today, but you can do it with the skin on. Our skin was kind of tough and kind of ugly, so we thought it would be nicer to peel it. You can do this with delicata squash. You can do this with zucchini. You can do this, you can't really do this with acorn squash, but there are so many squashes that you can chop up. You can chop them up like this. Yep, you could use pumpkin. You chop them up like this. One of my favorite things to do is chop up the squash, whatever squash it is. This. Chop up onion, pepper, some garlic. I just usually do a whole head of garlic. And I roast it in the oven just like this with some olive oil and salt, and then I blend it up with some cashews, and I make a very simple creamy butternut squash soup. So good. So you can chop up your squash like that. But today, to show you how, and it's easy, I forgot them, but it's easy if you have 2 wooden chopsticks and you lay one on either side of your squash, right? And you just start making very thin cuts. Not all the way through. Okay? So if you just make your thin cuts. Yes. That's how I do it. If the skin looks nice, yep. If the skin looks nice, I always eat the skin of my squash or my potato, or, you know, when we traveled to Ukraine, they were very offended. They were not offended. They had a little racism going on because we were hoity-toity Americans. They didn't know us, but that was their perception of Americans, right? Was hoity-toity Americans, and our potatoes had to be peeled, and you know, we had to be treated special. And so, you know, my mom taught me to always help in the kitchen and always help with whatever chores are happening. And so I finally convinced the daughter of the pastor that we were staying with to let me help peel the potatoes. So we're sitting on this little stool out in the courtyard because they had a bricked-in courtyard, and we're peeling the potatoes over this little bowl and everything. And the pastor walks up to me and he's like, he had attitude, and he's like, so, who peels the potatoes at your house? And I said, nobody peels the potatoes at our house. I said, we eat our potato skins. And I said, I don't know why I'm peeling the potatoes now, except you told me to, or your wife told me to. And I said, but we never peel our potatoes, especially, and they were lovely potatoes. They were the new potatoes with the soft little skins, And I said, I don't know why we're peeling these potatoes. And he's like, you mean you don't peel the potatoes at your house? I said, no. I said, we don't get that kind of treatment at my house. I'm like, that's for people who don't know what a good potato is. And he just kind of walked away, and we never had another peeled potato at his house. But I know why he had, and he eventually became one of our very good friends. I know why he had attitude. Some of the Americans that had come along before us had been hoity-toity. They'd been snobby. And here his wife was cooking for a party of 15 people, and she was slaving over the hot stove in an outdoor kitchen. She didn't have the nice kitchen that I have, right? We're in a small country village, and she spends all day over the stove, and so he was concerned for his wife. So I understand why he had a little attitude. But after we understood the great potato situation, everything became a lot better, and we were much closer as friends, and it was really wonderful. So you can cut your squash this way and see how it's flappy, and it will look like the squash that I showed you. All right? So this is our squash. We will pass this back. The ladies can bag it up. If somebody wants to take that home, you can, and you can finish baking this squash at your house or make some soup with it. And so I think I smell our garlic confit. What does our garlic confit look like? Let's pull it out, and let's, if you can pass me the squash and the pesto. Okay, perfect. May I have a spoon, please? Okay, and if you would, just carry it right out. Thank you. We'll carry it right out here. So here's our squash. And this makes a loving Thanksgiving side dish if you want to serve it like that. See, like Isaiah, right? He got these really thin ones over here, and he did a really good job. And so we're going to put some of our nice pesto over our squash and work it down into our flaps and our layers. You see it? See that? See how nice it looks? Again, when the squash is in season, this is not an expensive dish to make. Okay, thank you. May I have some hot pads, please, and another spoon? Thank you. All right, so we're going to put our pesto over our potatoes. If I was doing this for Thanksgiving and I had a little more time and I wasn't talking, I'd try to make it a little bit more prettier, but I think you all can envision what this can look like on a pretty serving dish. So here's our pesto squash. Look, we're gonna take this off. This is very hot. I want to just set it down because I'm gonna use this is what our garlic confit looks like. I'm gonna carry this around for you all. See how the garlic is soft and roasted, and it smells so good. This is the best way to eat garlic. Best way, hands down. It looks like a lot of oil. It looks like a lot of oil. That's okay. When you put this in a jar and put it in the fridge, you want the oil to just cover. Do you guys get a good look at it? You want it to just cover your olive oil because that's what keeps it from going bad. It is. This is So I did not grow up completely vegan. I grew up um, uh, eating butter. We didn't drink milk, but we did eat butter. And so I'm still a little bit of a pagan at heart. I still like real butter pretty well. Um, but it is something that I'm, working on. But when you have this garlic, you don't need the butter on your baked potato. This is just absolutely the best stuff ever. And so here is our Hasselback butternut squash with our garlic confit and our mock pesto. And this is a good way to eat squash. So we're going to pass this back. We'll put everything out here in the end. And you can eat this pesto on the hot rolls, yes. So you put the chopsticks on either side of the squash to keep you from going all the way down. You don't want to cut all the way through the squash. Right, so where's my squash that do I want to what? Oh, the rolls can take a lot of abuse. Yeah, they're done. They're not necessarily browned on the top, but they're done. So I'll bring the squash around closer so you can see what I mean. See, I've cut the squash, but I haven't gone all the way through the bottom. If I were to have just a slice of squash like that, it burns a lot easier in the oven than this will. All right? So I've sliced the squash, but I haven't gone all the way through to the other side. You can do this with a squash, a pumpkin, a potato. The Hasselback potato is something that's very popular in food culture right now because it gets the potato nice and crispy. So Hasselback squash or Hasselback potato. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does. It does work very well with sweet potatoes. All right. So our last but not least, and we still have our cake, but our last but not least is a cheese ball. Who likes cheese? I do. And this cheese ball is going to make up for everything that you think you're missing. So why don't we pass around our mini carrots, our cheese carrots, and let everybody have a sample, because everybody's probably getting a little bit hungry while we make up this cheese ball. Yeah. Do we have some tongs and some napkins? All right, so the base of this is cashews. You can use almonds or walnuts, but it's going to change the flavor and the texture. So there's our cashews. A lot of recipes, when you make a cheese ball, that was the yeast flakes they call you for soaking the cashews. I don't soak the cashews because, in my opinion, it makes my cheese ball too wet. And I don't like that. And I'll show you why here in a minute. I don't want it to be too wet. So there was our coconut milk and our coconut oil. No, probably not. That is too much salt. That's a tablespoon of salt. We need only a teaspoon of salt, so we're going to use the trusty hand method and hope we don't oversalt it. But that was too much salt. All right, so here is our cheese ball. Again, this is I love my blender, and I have my blender for certain things and my food processor for certain things. This is another recipe that I would typically do in the food processor. Simply because the blender, especially your Vitamix, it produces too much heat. and it can change the color and kind of cook whatever you're making in it sometimes if you're not careful. But the food processor's on the fritz right now, so here we are. All right, so I've overworked it just a little bit. That was my safety on my blender telling me that my motor's overheated because I've used it a lot. But you blend it until it's smooth between your thumb and forefinger. It's okay like this. It's still good on a cracker this way, or it's still good even if it's a little chunky. Typically, I blend it a little more smooth. I then take a clean, thin tea towel, and I lay it out, and I get my spatula, and I clean it off. And I scrape it out. Sometimes it doesn't want to come out, but we're going to make it. All right, so we scrape it out. If this was it's a little bit chunky still, but we're going to pretend it's not. We then gather up the corners of you can use cheesecloth. We gather up the corners, and we kind of press it together. You see the moisture that's coming out? And I now just kind of wrap it up. Sometimes I put a rubber band around it. I put this in the fridge just like this. You want the air to get to it to kind of dry it out. Okay? And then we stuffed it into a little mini bell pepper for you today. You can roll this in chopped herbs. I intended to blend it finer and you can taste it, but it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. But we roll it in chopped herbs. I like dill and green onion the best. I love dill. That was the best thing about traveling in Ukraine and Crimea was all the dill and cucumbers and then you can serve it on a platter with crackers or bread or any number of things. It's absolutely delicious. All right, we're almost done. We're going to go back to our cake. And then I'm going to let you guys, well, you know what? While I ice the cake, why don't we do our game? And we're going to pass out the secret, and you guys tell me what's in it while I ice the cake. You guys want to do that? All right, let's do that. Yeah, we can put that out on the deck. So if I don't have enough for everyone, you find a partner and you share with them. All right? It's very simple. It's not difficult. Please take one. It's not difficult. And you have to tell me what's in this. Oh, it might be. I'm not going to tell you. You have to tell me what it is. See if you can identify all the ingredients. I'll tell you how many ingredients there are in just a minute. Yep, that's one. Good job. Good job. Already starting. Oh, what was that I heard? Avocado. Very good. Very good. You guys are doing very well. What was that over there? Yep, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 ingredients in the whole dish. Salt, very good. Dates. I heard someone say it. Say it louder. I heard someone say it, I thought. Where's my cake? Thank you. I need some butter knives, please. So coconut, yep. It has, is it coconut cream or coconut oil? Very good. What else does it have in it? You guys haven't guessed everything. Oh, there's always that. Not pecans, nope. No gluten. No gluten. Nope. All right, so I forgot. Here it is. So for our German chocolate cake or German carob cake, I have a filling that I'm going to put on it. And to do that, I need to pipe a border around the center. So I have my piping bag here. I have my scissors here. This is going to keep my coconut icing from falling off of my cake. So I pop my insert down in there, pop my tip on. This is my favorite tip. I ice almost all my cakes with this. Love it, love it, love it. We have that ready. We're going to add an edge onto it real quick. Some more frosting on the side. Frosting. Go ahead. You will be sampling the cake. So I'm just going to do a rough decoration on the edge here. Yeah, you're going to sample this cake as soon as I get it frosted. We can ask our lovely ladies to start clearing down the end of the deck here and putting out our food for sampling while we... That was the vegan cheese ball that we made. Yes, ma'am. That was the cheese ball we made. Again, you can serve that cheese ball with crackers, with peppers, bread. It's even good on spaghetti. If you have a little bit left over and you want to do some spaghetti, you can do it on spaghetti. That's good too. The cheese ball? Oh, you can. If you request it. I didn't bring it today because I didn't want people looking at it ahead of time and figuring out what was in it. But so, we have limes. Yes, there are limes in there. There's lime juice, but there's also another lime product in there. What is it? Not key lime. This is just zest. Very good. There's zest. There's coconut oil. There is avocado. That's what makes it green. There's something else in there that rounds out the flavor. It's not a lot. What do you guys guess it would be? Huh? It's very common. No, there's no sugar. Well, there's no refined sugar. There is sweetener in there. What sweetener do you think it is? Yes, it is. It's good maple syrup from New England, from New Hampshire. Every time I travel back to New Hampshire, I bring maple syrup back. No, there's maple syrup in the crust and in the pie as well. All right, so a rough decoration. It doesn't have to look fancy. You don't have to be able to pipe rosettes and all kinds of good stuff. And it's okay if it pokes out a little bit here and there. But as it's gonna give me problems. We want to pipe a border around it. And I'm not the best piper in the world, but you know, you get the job done. Sometimes I pipe rosettes. Sometimes, like today, for sake of time, I'm just piping a simple border around it so my other frosting won't fall off, which is really the star. Come on, stay on there. Be good. Sometimes your piping bag, if you haven't mixed your icing well enough, it either gets air in there or it gets a clog in there. And you just have to squeeze it out. And this has a clog in it. So it's not going to look as pretty as I would like it to look. I can tell by how it's coming out of, and I can even see it right there. All right. Let's see if that will come out now. There we go. Now we're cooking. All right. So you still haven't guessed the other ingredient that's in there. Nope. No aroma. It's a very common ingredient. I can't believe you guys haven't guessed it. Nope. No tofu. Vanilla. And it's real vanilla. It is not vanilla extract. So my mom has a toy that I want very, very much. And it's a freeze dryer. And so she, vanilla extract has alcohol in it. And some people prefer to stay away from that. So she buys real vanilla beans from Madagascar or wherever, grinds them up with water, and then puts them in her freeze dryer. And so I pulled out my extra fancy vanilla for you guys today. It's the real thing, real deal. And here is our carob cake. Simple, but easy. If I can do it, you can do it. With our coconut icing on top. And here are our buns and our squash and our meatloaf and all of the yummy things that you guys have watched me make today. And I appreciate your wonderful patience. You know, and let's say a blessing, and then you guys can feel free to come up here and help yourselves. While I talk a little bit more, Pastor, would you say the prayer for us? Amen. Ladies, would you come and cut the cake? I believe you have plates at your tables. We need some serving utensils. Serving utensils. Okay? All right, so please feel free to come up here and help yourselves. Where'd my clipboard go? Do you know where my clipboard is? All right, well, I'll do it from my phone. Oh, thank you. So, many people ask, why plant-based, right? Plant-based is anything that doesn't have a mother. I guess I can't seem to just stand here in this one spot. But we're going to focus on the vegetables today. Why do we need them? They provide us with minerals, vitamins, and nutrients for our bodies. They also help prevent many diseases such as eye problems, cancer, and heart disease. Many people first discovered the curative fact about a vegetable diet during the rationing of World War II. The reasons for rationing were, one, we had to feed the military, right? Two, with the men being drafted from the farms, there was a lot less. The farms were no longer operating at full capacity, right? And number three, the Axis forces were targeting our shipping supplies. Great Britain alone, because it's an island country, was importing around 55 million tons of food a year from other countries. Most of its food, I think 75% of its food stuffs was coming from outside the country. With concerns that the reduction in supplies could lead to food shortages, and the government began to worry that as food prices would increase because of the lack of supply, and that poor people wouldn't be able to afford to eat. The decision was taken to introduce the rationing system. And so began 5 years of rationing in the U.S. and 14 years in Great Britain. As a result of rationing and the increased focus on fruits and vegetables being included in the diet, the population's health by and large improved considerably during these years. There was more resilience. As there was more reliance on vegetables and less meats in the diet, the people grew healthier. Wartime cookbooks published during that time contained recipes that highlighted the use of pulses, vegetables, fruits, and nuts. Restaurants during the war had special no-meat menus that they instituted on certain days of the week to aid the war effort. In fact, today's knowledge of nutrition owes a great deal to the diet people were forced to follow during World War II. It provided valuable insight on what nutritional requirements were and how a population could follow a healthy diet when all the foodstuffs weren't available. Even though World War II is when many people discovered nutrition, including our government, that's when they became aware of it, health advocates have been in existence for much longer than that. One of these was born November 26, 1827, and her name was Ellen Gould Harmon. Yeah, right? We probably know her as Ellen White. She went on in her life to become one of the greatest authorities on healthy lifestyle of her time, and in my humble opinion, of ours as well. Her writings still ring true today and apply to our lives. Not only is she a great advocate for diet and health, but she speaks to our great benefit on many subjects, such as health, spiritual, moral, physical, and psychological issues. She is the most translated female nonfiction author in the history of literature, as well as the most translated American nonfiction author of either gender. But before Ellen White, we have Daniel. Long ago, Daniel was kidnapped from his home in Jerusalem and was carried across the desert to the city of Babylon in the land of the Chaldeans. How old was he when this happened? We don't know, but he was young. Bible scholars place his age to be around 17, possibly younger. Daniel was stripped of his country, his trust, his family, his language, and even his name. But the one thing he determined that they could not take from him was his trust in God. Daniel stood at the bountifully loaded table of King Nebuchadnezzar, a table that was loaded with every kind of delicacy that could be imagined at that time, and humbly requested that he be given pulse to eat and water to drink. Why? Because Daniel was Jewish. As a member of the Jewish faith, there are certain dietary rules that he followed, that had been given to his ancestors at Mount Sinai. We can find this story in Exodus. He's not paying attention, is he? He's missing the best part. Anyway, before this, we find these guidelines in Genesis 1:29 when God himself gives them to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And God said, "Behold, I give you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To them it shall be to you for meat." Genesis 1:29. There are incredible advantages spiritually, physically, environmentally, ethically, and economically. In going back to the original diet of Eden, by going back to the beginning, we are also helping take care of the very first thing that God asked us to look after, which is this earth. We are stewards here. It is our duty, with God's help, to do all we can to take care of this planet. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, "Therefore, whatsoever ye eat or drink, whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." So in my conclusion, I encourage everyone to go back to our roots, to the beginning, and practice the diet that was meant for us, the diet that our bodies were designed for, the diet of Eden. So that is my 2 cents worth. Now they're quiet. And if anybody wants a copy of the notes, we can email those out as well. Oh, let's put the garlic confit out. People are going to want to have that on their, it might be hot. They probably want to have it on their bread or. I am sticky. I need to wash my hands.